Hey guys, welcome back to the FIRL, your wormhole from TradFi to DeFi. And in today's video, we're going to talk about why Twitter sucks for your crypto portfolio. Guys, always remember that whatever we discuss here today should never ever be taken as financial advice. If you want to seek financial advice, please seek out a licensed professional to do so. Today's title of this video, as always, has been devised by our mastermind here, Mr. MJ. And sir, can you tell us, why do you think Twitter sucks for a crypto portfolio?
I think before I begin, right, I know that the title is might be clickbaity, but I think before we go into like some of the negatives of Twitter, I just want to state out how Twitter has been beneficial, right? And then you can chip in as well. I think there are three big things that Twitter has, in terms of positive effects, right? First is, I think you definitely get to meet new people, new ideas, and the resources available to you is like so much, right? Especially when they bundle it in a thread form, so it's easy to consume, and a lot of them are experts, right? So I would say has been really useful for Twitter, and the speed of the information also is is much faster than any. I mean, you can literally get news about or rumors or news about interest rates hiking before it actually appears on Bloomberg, let's say.
True. And I suppose there's more red tape you have to bypass to be able to publish an article on Bloomberg, CNN, yada, yada, yada. Someone who's like an individual entity can just tweet and boom.
Yeah. I mean, you can be part of the process of information dissemination as well, right? So I found that to be just the speed, the convenience, the availability of resources is crazy. The amount of things you can learn. But what would you say are some of the other things that you found that is good about Twitter?
I think Twitter now having its functions of creating lists or being able to at least separate the fun stuff and the work stuff, work per se, because Twitter, how can Twitter really be work, right? My opinion. It allows you to be a little bit more focused on what you want to do on Twitter. Otherwise, you can incessantly just scroll, and half an hour just goes by, right? I think that's the main thing. That's the main thing. Then people that you follow really determines the quality they get out of Twitter. And as you say, there's a lot of smart people on it.
Yeah.
But that also brings us to the somewhat negative side as well, right?
Right. So the big negative side is that the way the algorithm for Twitter works is that it creates what we call echo chamber. In theory, you can actually control it by, like you said, the kind of people you follow, the kind of list you create. But the way Twitter operates is that, give an example, let's say you follow 10 people that you deem like is really good, let's say in the crypto field, right? So all 10 of them can be really, really good. But the thing about like human nature is that there's a tendency to start following things you shouldn't be following, and the algorithms kind of promotes that. So take for example, if you follow 10 creators in the same field, Twitter will know roughly what your tastes are.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And then let's say 10 of them just found something that just retweeted some other guy that said something very funny about crypto that is like kind of true, kind of funny at that. So then what happens is your mind is like, okay, let me click on this account, like who's this guy, right? Then you click on it. Then you see his other tweets, is also quite funny. Yeah, then you're like, yeah, there's a little bit of garbage. But I think my list can have a little bit of garbage in Twitter. No problem, right? So you start to follow it. And then that same guy starts to retweet other pieces of garbage, right? Yeah, so what happens is that it starts to grow, and before you know it, right, like most of your accounts that you follow are garbage. But here's the thing.
Slope, man.
Here's the thing, right? The important information you need in crypto are usually those that are not like retweeted a lot and liked a lot. But unless you change it yourself. By and large, the way Twitter actually organizes the tweets you see is that all the popular ones start to surface on top.
Okay. Whenever you log into Twitter, it's always the popular ones, most retweeted ones that get up at the top, right?
So what ends up happening is that the most, and actually this is more on my second point, the people with the most sway, the most charisma, the funniest, the ones that have hot takes, they start to populate your feed, and guess what? They start to feed your mind.
Yeah.
And so I'll talk about the echo chamber point, but I don't know, what has been your experience with these sort of things?
I wrote some threads on Twitter a while back, certain threads on certain projects, in of course a non-shilling manner, right?
Yeah.
And you use all the right hashtags and the right symbols. You label a token.
Yeah.
And as much as I pour an hour or two in creating those heartfelt threads per se,
Yep.
right? They probably get like 20 likes,
Exactly.
3 or 4 retweets. But then you post something like, if you're not buying Juno now,
Yeah.
your children will hate you for it.
Yeah.
Dude, that thing goes
Exactly.
viral.
Exactly.
And that's in a way, the beauty and the ugliness of social media, right? Like whatever's simple and clickable and retweetable always gets the most attention.
Yeah.
And I think you're right to the point that algorithm really does promote this kind of echo chamber, because these are the comments or these are the tweets that make people react, right?
Yeah. No, so to be specific, the algorithm promotes two things. One is what you mentioned, is that all these rubbish tweets, but it's like good rubbish, ends up populating your feed. The second one is echo chamber. So for example, if you follow like one of the mistakes I would say I made was that, you know, on Twitter you follow like the Luna holders. So this was before I knew about lists. So what happened is that if you keep following people like shield Luna, guess what? Your feed starts to have the kind of people who are shielding Luna with, like you said, you know, if you don't buy Luna now, people were complaining at $10, people were complaining at 100. Where will you be at 1,000, Mr. Anon? You know, things like that, right? So yeah, and then drawing all the rockets and all that. Then not only that, then suddenly like all the NFTs start coming in, like, you know, people we are guilty of that. So we retweet NFTs and then we start tagging friends, all these things. So guess what, right? The algorithm is gonna pick that up and it's gonna start feeding you all this echo chamber, and you won't, you know, be able to see like alternative opinions. And even if you do manage to see alternative opinions, so for example, like, you know, people are highlighting certain risks for Anchor, Death Spiral, and all that, because you follow Luna holders. So even if you click on the link of that negative tweet, guess what? In the retweet, in the reply section, is going to be what? All the Luna people.
Yeah, bashing the defiant.
Exactly, right. So that's one thing. Now, the third thing I think that I actually just recently discovered only, and it made all the sense in the world, is this. What happens on Twitter is actually very third or fourth hand information. Or at least from a psychology point of view, you have to assume that it's third or fourth hand. Because guess what? The way they do it is the technical guys, so these are like the coders, let's say, of whatever project, they explain the project and say, okay, here's the potential. And they usually, you know, coders, software developers, they are very technical in how they explain and they want to be accurate, right? What happens is that because a lot of these technical guys need to be accurate, but at the same time, projects need to be sold, right? Projects need to be explained.
Yeah, you raise funds, essentially.
Whether to raise funds or to grow on Twitter or to grow on whatever social media, right? So guess what? The software developer won't be able to do that because that's not the guy's nature. He's a product guy. He's a technical guy. He's not going to compromise the accuracy of his words because, you know, whether it's his reputation's on the line or whatever. So what happens is that usually there'll be a marketing department, or there'll be salespeople, or there'll be the CEO, who is usually the best salesperson in the company.
Yeah.
He will be the one looking like, okay, so you have explained this technical. Okay, you know what? You know, some of these things, you know, little things too complicated. Let's leave this out so that I can explain the whole thing in a very nice package for people to consume. And there's a lot of value in that, right? Don't get me wrong. That's a communication skill, you know, simplifying complex things. But certainly on Twitter, there's a lot of oversimplifications. So it's like that whole Chinese whisper game. I don't know if you play. One person will say like a string of 10 words, right? One sentence, 10 words. Then he'll whisper onto one person, and then it keeps going. And by the time he reaches the 10th person,
it's a whole different story.
So it's something totally different, right? Whether it's due to not understanding what the person say or complete misinterpretation or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean by third to fourth hand info. Of course, not every person is there to like scam you with wrong information. Sometimes the guy really don't understand. He really tried his best to try and figure out what the technical guy is saying so that he really want people to understand. But that good intentions end up causing the opposite consequence. Now, in addition, there are also people who are just purely out there to scam and to pump their own backs. Right? Recently, there was a anonymous tweet that someone sent that he managed to gain access to like 100 over gigs of Telegram data and information on people. Yeah, so it's horrific. Yeah, so that's another bad part I feel about Twitter, is that usually they're receiving third to fourth hand information. But what do you think about this?
I think you're right. I think whatever we see on Twitter is definitely not fresh off the oven. When it comes to some of this technical stuff, right? Like trying to shield a project or so. It probably has gone through VCs, probably gone through seed round investors. And when an influencer with 100,000 followers just comes and just types, if you're not buying this shit now, your kid's gonna hate you for it.
Yeah.
Dude, you have to really take that with take a lot of pinch of salt with it, in a sense, right? Because you're probably kind of like exit liquidity for people who are shitting their bags at that moment. But the problem is, those are the information, as we said earlier, that really, really caters and really, really touches people who are on Twitter as well.
I mean, like social media is facing the same issues that normal media is facing. Maybe in a crazier manner, right? Like we like to think that because of the frankness and because of how upfront some of this information can be, that it makes it better than mainstream media. But you can see the kind of like herd mentality or like curation of information issue that mainstream media faces is also faced by social media.
I think one thing to think about when I use Twitter, for example, is, as you said, if it's third and fourth hand information coming to you, that information is not going to give you an edge.
Exactly.
Because for every 1,000 of people who have liked that information per se, there's probably hundreds of thousands of people who have seen it and not done anything with regards to reacting to the tweet, but they probably would have purchased into it, and there's higher risk of you being dumped if that's the case, right?
Exactly. And I think the last one is long versus short form, right? I think I do believe that in 30 years' time, we're going to look back in this part, right? In our 20s or 30s, let's say.
What do you mean by this part? You mean this way we consume information?
So we're going to look at this and we are going to realize, right, how ridiculous it was that we favored short-term information over long-term.
Okay. Hot take.
So for example, right, people who are alcoholic, people who have some sort of addictive behavior, right? When they become sober and when they look back, they realize like how much short-term gratification they were going for, right? Now, we don't tend to think of that in the content we, that we consume, right? But I would say it's the same, right? Why is it? I mean, if you have been, let's say if you consume a lot of TikTok, if you consume a lot of like Twitter stuff, then suddenly I ask you, right, to go and read a 300-400 page book, or to read a very long Medium article, or even to watch an hour-long documentary or a debate, right, on a particular issue. I can guarantee you 9 out of 10 of you are watching this will suddenly feel the need to, like, you will feel difficult, right? And I notice this among myself as well, especially after consuming TikTok, that, I used to be able to watch like 2-hour debates. Now I still can, but I need to change to 1.5 speed. But that's time efficiency. But I can feel like the concentration is just not as what it used to be. And so Twitter is a platform that takes advantage of this unintentionally,
intentionally. Maybe they're the one who caused it.
To take advantage of this. And so what happens is that now you are used to short form content. Now, guess what? When you're used to short form content, you are not rigorous in your analysis of a token or a project, right? Then you just look, like nice looking picture. Wow, Discord got a lot of members.
Boom,
ape. NFT. Yeah, it's a good NFT, right? So that is one thing I realized, and I think one thing we should be doing is to try to be more long form in the content that we do. But what do you think before we end?
I mean, just to finalize on your point, I really like the last one, right? Long form, I feel always, in most cases, have advantages over short form content. I mean, for example, right, like if I give you a summary of a book that I just read over like 3 days, point form, you're not going to be adopting or assimilating the learnings from the book in just the point forms or one-page point forms I give you, right? It's through the whole process of reading the book, allowing it to simmer in you, relating to the examples and stories, that gives you an edge. And I think with Twitter, of course, by default, it being short form, and threads as well, as much as they are longer, not really a white paper or medium paper, or really just, it doesn't replace the due diligence that you should be doing by going to Discord groups or chatting with developers, yada, 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 boring stuff that no one wants to hear, who wants to just chase 100x, right? But why I do feel you as well. I feel like my attention span is shorter. I have this joke that I tell my friend that in order for me to watch a movie now, watching it on Netflix with my phone next to me, or the access of just an escape button and going on whatever random social media, just makes it a much more unpleasurable experience. I would say paying 20 ringgit to watch a movie is honestly how I can focus and be present on movie these days. Because hey, you're paying movie, turning on your phone you'll be a pariah in the cinema and yada yada yada, right?
Yeah.
And so I think we have to be a bit more conscious about curating our environment to work for us, and Twitter being one of them. Yeah, that's my main takeaway from your point.
It's a very interesting discussion about long form. And just to ask you, so for those who don't know, you have a blog, right? You have a blog.
Used to.
Yeah. But because there's a lot of writing for you to do, right? Like I noticed, I think your blog is probably you probably take 4 to 5 like Word docs or Microsoft. 2,000
words,
right?
etc.
So would you say, right, if you started writing today, you struggle to really accomplish an article of the same length?
I would say so. I would say writing long form content requires a lot more discipline, and it requires more time. Whereas, I mean, we were told, right, to be engaging on social media, you be consistent, and to be consistent sometimes means just writing random stuff, less than 140 characters, and ship it out. But you're right. I do find that it's a little bit harder to really sit down and concentrate through an article these days. So.
Yeah, man. So I think that is pretty much all we have to say for now with Twitter. And if you didn't know, we have a Telegram group chat. A lot of things goes on there. Thanks people like Muji and who else?
Casey, Mr. Q.
With all the interesting, I wouldn't say alpha, but
Jason as well. Jason,
with the interesting takes as well. So if you guys want to join, links in the comments and description. Of course, follow our Instagram page, like, comment, subscribe, click on the notification bell as usual, and we'll see you in the next video.
Peace out.